He has sold more than 170 million albums worldwide and built a level of fame so enormous that even people who have never followed country music still recognize his name immediately. At the height of his career, he made the unusual choice to step away from the spotlight entirely on his own terms, only to later return and prove that his appeal was still powerful enough to fill stadiums, even as he entered his 50s. Yet the question now surrounding Garth Brooks at 63 is how a man with such a legacy has ended up dealing with a multi-state lawsuit, a newly launched bar that faced intense criticism almost immediately after opening, a noticeable split in his longtime fan base over a beer-related dispute, and even rumors suggesting he may consider relocating outside the United States. Rather than a single downfall, what is unfolding appears to be a combination of several major pressures colliding at once, creating a far more complicated situation than many people realize. On October 3, 2024, a civil complaint was filed in Los Angeles that sent immediate shockwaves through the country music world. The plaintiff, identified in court documents as Jane Roe, had previously worked as a hairstylist and makeup artist for both Garth Brooks and his wife, Trisha Yearwood. Her professional relationship with Yearwood began in 1999, and she later joined Brooks' personal team in 2017. According to her account, the dynamic of that working relationship shifted after Brooks became aware of her financial difficulties, which she alleges were then used to exert pressure and control over her. The allegations contained in the lawsuit are serious and detailed. Roe claims that in 2019, she was invited by Brooks to travel with him to Los Angeles for a Grammy tribute event. She states that when they arrived, she discovered that only one hotel suite had been booked and that it contained a single bed intended for both of them. It is in this setting that she alleges she was sexually assaulted. The filing also describes another alleged incident at Brooks' residence, where she claims he emerged from a shower and forced her hands onto his body while making explicit remarks. Overall, the complaint outlines what her legal team describes as a sustained pattern of misconduct between 2019 and 2024, including allegations of sexual harassment, battery, and intentional exploitation of her financial vulnerability. The legal situation became even more complex due to actions taken before and after the public filing. Prior to the California complaint becoming public, Brooks had already filed a separate lawsuit in Mississippi in September 2024 under the pseudonym John Doe. His legal team argued that Roe was attempting to extort him, claiming she demanded millions of dollars in exchange for silence. Brooks publicly described the situation in extreme terms, comparing it to having a loaded gun pointed at his face, and insisted that any payment would be interpreted as an admission of guilt. He also strongly denied that he was capable of the behavior alleged against him. What followed was an increasingly complicated legal back and forth between both sides. Brooks' legal team attempted to have the California case dismissed entirely and sought to move or consolidate the proceedings in Mississippi. That move was significant because Mississippi does not offer the same anti-SLAPP protections found in California, which would have made it more difficult for Roe to publicly defend herself against dismissal attempts. Roe's attorneys responded by arguing that the Mississippi filing was strategically designed in bad faith to silence her and limit her legal protections. In December 2024, a federal judge in California rejected Brooks' motion to dismiss, although the case was temporarily paused while related matters in Mississippi were reviewed. By May 2025, the Mississippi case was ruled moot, effectively removing it from consideration and leaving the California lawsuit as the primary active case. As of early 2026, both parties have requested a jury trial, meaning the matter remains unresolved and is expected to continue through a lengthy legal process involving discovery, filings, and further public attention. However, to understand the full weight of the current situation, it is necessary to step back and examine the scale of what Garth Brooks built over the course of more than 3 decades. Few artists in modern music history have reached his level of cultural and commercial impact. Brooks was born on February 7, 1962, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, as the youngest child in a blended family. His mother, Colleen, had her own background in country music, having signed a recording contract with Capitol Records and appeared on television programs such as Ozark Jubilee during the 1950s. His father worked as a draftsman in the oil industry. In their household, creativity was encouraged through weekly family talent nights, where each child was expected to perform in front of the family. From an early age, Brooks learned to play guitar and banjo, although during his school years, his primary focus was athletics. He participated in football, baseball, and track and field, and at that stage in his life seemed more likely to pursue sports than music. However, his exposure to local bars and honky-tonks in Oklahoma gradually pulled him toward performing. In the mid-1980s, he made his first attempt to break into the Nashville music scene, but that early effort ended in disappointment, and he returned home. He later attended Oklahoma State University, where he earned a degree in advertising. In 1987, he made a second attempt at Nashville, and this time he chose to remain there and pursue music seriously. What distinguished Brooks from many other aspiring country artists in Nashville was not only his voice or songwriting ability, but his stage presence. At a time when country performances were typically more restrained and traditional, Brooks introduced a high-energy, arena-style performance influenced heavily by rock concerts. He ran across stages, incorporated pyrotechnics, smashed guitars during performances, and used large-scale lighting setups that transformed his shows into full theatrical events. This approach did not simply fit into country music. It reshaped what country performances could look like. His self-titled debut album, released in 1989, marked the beginning of his rise. In 1990, No Fences became one of the best-selling country albums of all time. The following year, Rope in the Wind debuted at #1 on both the Billboard Country Chart and the Billboard 200 simultaneously, making music history as the first country album to achieve that crossover success immediately upon release. By the mid-1990s, Brooks was performing at a scale previously unseen in country music. His 1997 Central Park concert drew an estimated 750,000 to 1 million people, making it one of the largest live concert audiences ever recorded. He remains the only artist in history to achieve 9 Diamond certified albums from the Recording Industry Association of America, surpassing the Beatles' previous record of 6. Over his career, he has received 2 Grammy Awards, 17 American Music Awards, 22 Academy of Country Music Awards, and 10 Country Music Association Awards. He has been inducted into both the Country Music Hall of Fame and the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and became the youngest recipient of a Library of Congress Gershwin Prize for Popular Song. With more than 170 million records sold globally and an estimated net worth of around $400 million as of 2024, he stands as the best-selling solo artist in American music history. That enormous legacy now contrasts sharply with the controversies surrounding him in recent years. In March 2024, Brooks and Trisha Yearwood opened Friends in Low Places Bar and Honky Tonk at 411 Broadway in Nashville's Lower Broadway district. The venue spans 54,715 square feet across 4 floors, making it the largest honky tonk on the Strip. The first floor centers on a live music stage. The second includes balcony seating. The third is reserved for large event space booked well in advance. And the 4th floor features an open-air rooftop bar called the Oasis with a tropical theme. A members-only club is also included within the building, and Trisha Yearwood personally curated the food menu using inspiration from her cookbooks and Food Network work. Brooks purchased the property in 2021 and spent approximately 3 years developing the concept. In interviews, he frequently described his vision for the venue, saying he wanted it to feel like the Chick-fil-A of honky-tonks, a place where guests would feel safe, welcomed, and surrounded by respectful behavior. He also emphasized a strong commitment to traditional country music, specifically naming artists such as George Strait and Merle Haggard as influences for the atmosphere he wanted to create. The opening of the bar was accompanied by a documentary-style series released on Amazon Prime Video on the same day the venue officially opened. Despite the anticipation, early reactions within the first 2 weeks quickly spread across online platforms including Google Reviews, Yelp, and social media. Many visitors complained about high prices, with one example noting a charge of $37 for 2 drinks, which they considered expensive even by Broadway standards. Others pointed out additional hidden entertainment fees that were not clearly disclosed on menus or receipts. Some guests also expressed surprise that the venue did not accept cash, which they felt clashed with the traditional honky-tonk atmosphere. However, the most repeated criticism centered on the music selection. Multiple visitors reported hearing music that was not country at all. Some mentioned tracks, such as Low by Flo Rida, Apple Bottom Jeans, Whitney Houston covers, and songs by the Cranberries. Several reviewers stated that the venue felt more like a modern nightclub in New York rather than a traditional Nashville honky-tonk. While other visitors praised the live performances and described the venue as visually impressive and energetic. The early wave of negative reviews shaped much of the public perception surrounding its opening. Even before the bar launched, Brooks had already become involved in another controversy that significantly affected his relationship with part of his fan base. In June 2023, during a Billboard Country Live panel in Nashville, he stated that his upcoming bar would serve all beer brands, including Bud Light. At that time, Bud Light was facing a widespread boycott from conservative consumers following a promotional campaign involving transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. Other country artists had publicly rejected the brand, including Kid Rock, who posted videos of himself shooting Bud Light cases, as well as John Rich and Travis Tritt, who announced they would not serve the beer in their venues. Many conservative fans expected Brooks to follow the same path. Instead, he emphasized that his bar would welcome all brands and all guests, provided they came with respect and kindness. He also suggested that those unwilling to do so could choose other venues nearby. His comments quickly spread online and were widely interpreted by critics as dismissive of boycott supporters. The reaction from portions of his audience was immediate and highly emotional. Videos circulated showing fans discarding albums and merchandise. Social media discussions declared the end of long-term fan loyalty, and slogans such as "Go Woke, Go Broke" became widely used. Some political figures also entered the discussion, including a New York politician who claimed to remove Brooks' music from his personal collection, while Texas Governor Greg Abbott amplified a parody story that falsely suggested Brooks had been booed off stage. Brooks later addressed the backlash in a Facebook livestream, reaffirming his support for inclusivity and stating that diversity had always been central to his values. He made it clear that he would not change his position, which further widened the divide between him and a segment of his traditional fan base. This controversy weakened part of his audience foundation even before the later legal and business challenges emerged. Behind the public attention, those close to Brooks have described the period as emotionally and physically draining. Reports from his circle suggest increased stress, disrupted sleep, and visible physical effects associated with pressure. The lawsuit in particular is said to have affected him deeply, not only because of the allegations themselves, but because they directly challenge the personal image he spent decades building. Trisha Yearwood has been described as a key stabilizing presence throughout this period. She has supported him publicly at multiple events, including performances at the state funeral of former President Jimmy Carter in January 2025, participation in the Opry 100 celebration in March 2025, and the unveiling of her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. These appearances were widely interpreted as unified public statements during ongoing scrutiny. However, Yearwood was also indirectly drawn into the legal dispute, with claims suggesting she may have been aware of the alleged misconduct and failed to intervene. Because the plaintiff previously worked for her, these claims added another layer of reputational complexity, although no legal conclusions have been reached. During conversations with fans, Brooks also revealed that he and Yearwood had been seriously considering purchasing a home in Ireland. He explained that Yearwood had developed a strong emotional attachment to the country during a tour and had expressed a deep desire to spend more time there. He added that their recent visit reinforced that interest, making Ireland a genuine option for their future base. Brooks' past also includes several earlier controversies that help contextualize his current public position. In the late 1990s, he created an alter ego named Chris Gaines, portraying a fictional Australian rock star as part of a planned film project called The Lamb, which was never completed. The 1999 album released under this persona confused many fans and was widely criticized, becoming one of the most discussed experimental missteps in modern music marketing. In 1991, his music video for The Thunder Rolls, which depicted domestic violence and infidelity, was banned by both CMT and TNN due to its content. Brooks defended the work as a reflection of real-world issues, and it ultimately won CMA Video of the Year, despite the ban. In 1993, he became involved in a dispute with NBC during negotiations surrounding a Super Bowl performance, which led to him briefly leaving the stadium before ultimately performing. This incident contributed to a long-term NFL policy requiring national anthem performances to be pre-recorded. Another major decision in his career was his long refusal to allow his music onto streaming platforms. He argued that streaming devalued music and did not fairly compensate artists. He maintained this stance until 2016, by which time streaming had already become dominant, limiting his exposure to younger audiences during a key transitional period in the industry. Despite these controversies, none individually halted his career. His commercial success and loyal fan base remain strong. However, collectively, they form a pattern of an artist who consistently stands by his convictions, even when public reaction turns against him, and who has occasionally misjudged how audiences would respond. By early 2026, Brooks was navigating one of the most complex periods of his career. He continued performing at major events, including appearances such as the United States Grand Prix in Austin in October 2025, alongside participation in major Nashville celebrations and ongoing Las Vegas residency commitments extending through 2024 and planned tours into 2026. His approach has largely been to continue working despite controversy, although this means every appearance is accompanied by ongoing public scrutiny. Legally, the California case remains active, with both sides preparing for jury trials. The discovery phase is expected to generate additional filings and media coverage as the case progresses. While Brooks' financial standing remains strong at an estimated $400 million, the primary challenge lies in reputation rather than finances. At the core of the situation is an identity built over decades, not just as a performer, but as a symbol of integrity, generosity, and trust within country music. The current allegations and surrounding controversies directly challenge that identity, regardless of how the legal process ultimately concludes. Industry observers continue to monitor developments, though most remain publicly reserved in their commentary. What is clear is that the period from mid-2023 through early 2026 represents one of the most turbulent chapters in his life and career, combining legal battles, political backlash, business criticism, and cultural division within a relatively short time frame. Individually, none of these events would likely redefine his legacy. Together, they create a far more complicated and uncertain chapter in the story of one of the most successful artists in American music history.